welcome to today's guided drawing. Today we're going to be making a castle. We've been talking about architecture and kind of putting together our own little castle drawing. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with our paper landscape nice and long. So go ahead and lay your paper out like that. And I'm going to actually be using a very thin pen because I want to get some details on here. You guys can use your pencil and then you can outline whenever you guys are ready. So at the bottom of your paper, I want you guys to start with a curved line. And that is going to be the hillside that our castle is on. We're going to go ahead and we're going to make a large box. So line down here, one line down here, kind of in the middle of your paper right there. And then I want you guys to draw a line going across. And you don't need rulers for this, just try your best to make a straight line. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to make two towers, one tower here and one tower here. So we want them to be a little bit like bigger on the bottom. So when you bring your line down, I want you guys to kind of think about like that cone shape, that upside down ice cream cone shape. So it's going to be smaller at the top and bigger at the bottom. Watch how my hand is moving right now. So go kind of close to the top and bring the bottom out bigger. Do you see how that's bigger at the bottom? It kind of looks like a triangle, but we're going to make it flat on the top. So let's leave that top off for a second because we want to make the other side match. So go ahead and take your pencil and start right about the same height and bring it down to the same little spot right here. Okay? And we are going to connect those in a little bit, so that will work out just fine. Go ahead and think about like how far across did you go right here? You want to go about that far across right here. So put your pencil down right about the same spot and bring your line down into that cone shape. All right, excellent. So the next part we need to do is flatten off those tops because these are going to be our towers. There's a flat top. There's a flat top. Good. Now we're going to curve those out and we're going to create the little tower tops. So a little tiny curve there and little curves right here. Make them flat. And now we're going to give them the little edges that are along the top of castles. I'm going to do one on that side and I'm going to go skip over and do one on this side and then one right here in the middle. Good. Now we're going to do that on the other side. One on the edge, one on the other edge, and then one right in the middle till you have three. Okay, now we're going to do the same thing here on our big guardhouse right here. Okay, so go ahead and we're going to do one on, we're going to do these a little bit bigger. One big square there, one big square on this end, and then we're going to do two more in the middle. So kind of map out where they go. They kind of look like Legos. Let's pretend we're building with Legos today. All right, now what we want to do is we want to add a line across the back here to create like a roof for the middle portion. So line straight across your page, and then what we want to do is we want to create two more towers here and here in the background. So we're going to go a tower here, another little cone shape, and one on this side. You guys are doing so good. You're almost there. So we go ahead and flatten that top, and we're going to do the same thing we did on the other two towers. Bring the little edges up, flat line across, and the same thing as we did here with the little blocks. We want three on each one. Start on the end, do one on the other end, and fill in your space. 1, 2, and 3. All right, now comes for the really fun part. What we're going to do next is we're going to create our actual cones that creates the little tower. So upside down triangle. Good, and just make sure that they tuck in here and here. Another one over here. Start with your line, bring it down, tuck it in, and I'm just making the dot right above the middle. So if you kind of think about where the middle is, that's where you want to start with the tip. I'll show you again. I'm looking at the middle. I'm going up to where I want, how tall I want it to be. I'm going to put a dot, and then I'm going to take my line and pull and tuck. Pull and tuck. Same thing over here. I'm looking across now. I want to say, how high is that one? I want them to be the same, so I'm going to kind of think about it. I'm going to make my dot. Make a dot first, and then pull and tuck. Excellente. All right, now what we need is the drawbridge, the door. So let's start with a big curvy upside down U. Let's do 2 of those. Crash. All right, now these doors were usually made out of wood, and so we're gonna draw our line straight down for the wooden plank. And they had another iron part that went down in front of that. It was called the portcullis, and that would keep the people out if something happened to the door. Now what we need to add is our windows. So we're going to do a couple loops here. We're going to start in the middle, 1 loop, 2 loops, 3 loops, and then we're going to flatten the bottom. Put a straight line across the bottom, and you will have 3 windows. Excellent. Now, if you guys are little and you're my kindergarten or 1st grade, you guys could stop right here and you could start your coloring. If you want to add more, you can keep on drawing with me. So I'm going to add more windows here and here, here, and here, and 2 in the back here. All right. Now what we need is a road. Let's make our road come out from the door so we can bring our line straight out from here and from here. And you notice how when something's getting closer to you, it should get bigger. So that gives us the perspective that we're getting closer and closer to something further away when you make your lines come out at an angle. So make sure you do that part. I do want to add some trees to the background, and I want to add 2 flags. I'm going to show you guys how to do that. So draw a straight line out of the top of that one and a straight line out of the top of that one. Now what you do to make a flag is you curve the line like this. Curve like this. So it goes down and up, and you're going to do the same thing on the bottom. I'm going to follow that same line, down and up, and then guess what? You just put a little V mark in there, and you're going to have a little flying flag. So let's do that on the other side. Down and up, and a little V mark for the flying flag. And we definitely want our flags flying the same direction, so make sure they're going in the same way. Now what we want to do is we want to add our trees. So again, if you feel like you've done enough and that's all you want to do, you can stop right there and you can start your coloring right there. But if you want trees, let's go ahead and add those. I'm going to make my trees in a triangle shape. So I'm going to bounce, 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 bounce. And I'm going to bounce down this way too. I want to fill this area in. And I want to go ahead and make it flat on the bottom. Okay, let's do that on the other side as well. Bounce all the way down your paper. And if you have another way you want to make your trees, that's fine too. You can decide how you want your trees to be. Now I'm going to put a bunch of bushes down here. So put the bushes down there first. Bushes, bushes, bushes. And then we'll make the tree trunk. Okay, just 2 straight lines down and tuck them in behind those bushes right there, and you'll have your bushes on this side. All right, now the last thing, if you want to, would be to add some mountains in your background, some wavy mountain lines. You don't have to do this part if you don't choose to, but it kind of is fun to do. And then if you're one of my bigger kids or my bigger followers, I want you guys to try something a little new. So I usually teach kids how to make something I call fish scales. And fish scales work for a lot of things. They work for fish and lizards and dinosaurs and snakes, but they also work for the roof of a house. So let me show you how to make them. On a roof like this, I would start with 1 teardrop shape. You see the teardrop shape? Now let me get closer so I can show you this trick. When you are making these, you're going to put a little dot at the bottom here. It's basically a dot at the bottom of the hill. And then you're going to bounce again. So that's 1 teardrop. Now I got to make 2. I'm going to start from the edge here, and I'm going to bounce and touch the dot and bring it out. Now I got 2. Now I need 3. Watch. Dot, dot, bounce from the side, touch, touch. Now I have 3. Okay, again, dot, dot, dot. I'm going to go ahead and bounce up, touch, touch, and touch. If this is too hard for you, you do not have to do it. It is only for fun. I do expect my bigger kids to try it though, my 4th and my 5th. Go ahead and draw your first one here. Put a dot, pull from the side, bounce and bounce, dot, dot, pull, and touch those dots. Now when it gets down to the bottom right there, you don't really need to worry about anything else. I wouldn't even worry about adding another line right there. Let's pull it over and do another one here. And when you get really good at this and you've done it a couple times, you won't have to add those dots anymore. You'll just realize that you are going and touching the very middle of each of these upside down hills. All right, and now I have my roof texture, and it's time for coloring. All right, so if you guys want to, you can color along with me. If you are in my younger grades, you are probably going to be using your color crayons, and that is fine. So in your color crayon pack, if you don't have a gray, you can always use a black, and you can color very lightly. And the black will turn out to be a gray color, or you could even use a pencil as a gray color, because sometimes these castles were made out of stone, just like we talked about. So I'm actually going to use markers today, and I'm going to start with my picture here. If you want to pause my video and you want to color on your own, that is fine. You could pause me right here. If you want to watch me color and color along with me, then you can do that as well. All right, so I'm going to start by outlining. I'm going to go around the edges of everywhere that I've drawn my black line. And this helps me to know what I'm going to be coloring in. And it helps me from going over the lines. Again, if you don't have markers, you can use your crayons. You could also use colored pencils. I also want to go around my windows. All right, now that I have this outlined, I want to switch to a lighter gray. And when you're coloring with markers, a good rule of thumb is to create long strokes, long lines, and go in all one direction. That keeps it from having like a scribbly look, and it makes it blend in a little nicer. My bigger kids, if you guys decide you want more texture on your castle, you can always do a Google search and look up how to do bricks, a brick pattern. So I challenge you to do that. if that sounds like fun for you. All right, and if you're one of my littler kids, I challenge you to try to stay inside the lines and take your time on your coloring job today. And remember, you don't have to color yours exactly like mine. If I choose colors and you want a different color, you can choose whatever colors that you wish to have. Now I'm going to go ahead and color in these top parts because they are also gray. And then I'm thinking about going with a little bit more of an orange tone for the roof. You guys can choose your own. Maybe you want yours to be pink and make it a princess palace. Maybe you want it to be dark blue and have a dungeon feel to it. You can do it however you feel you'd like it to be. All right, I was thinking about something I wanted to add to my picture, and I was thinking about adding bricks along the edge of this doorway. So if you think that's a cool idea too, you can just make straight lines that go around in a circle to give it that brick feel. I'm going to create those as the gray bricks as well. All right, now what I want to do is I want to add my orangish color for my bricks. So they're kind of like little roof tiles. So I'm going to make them all one color, and then I can show you guys how to add a little bit of depth perception by adding one more color. You can make a shadow. I'm going to take a little bit of a darker orange, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go along the bottom. You can go in between these little sections right here, and maybe I'm going to decide that the sun is coming from this angle, and so I want my shadows to be on one side of the building. So on one side you're going to just draw a stripe of color in a darker shade than the one that you already used, and then go in between these little pieces here. Do you see how that gives you a little bit of more realism? All right, now what I want to do is I want to find a good brown that I can use to do the door. Let's try this one out. Sometimes when I work with markers, I like to do my lighter colors first, so I'm going to go ahead and do a lighter brown right here, and then as I want darker colors, I have two choices. I can either go over it again with the same color, and you see how that gives you some darker value? Or you can use an actual darker color, but I kind of like the way that works out. Now what I want to do is I want to add lights inside my windows. So I'm going to use a yellow, and I'm going to make it look like there are lights on, like firelight. And you can do this with crayons as well. Just use your yellow or your orangish crayon to create what kind of looks like a fiery glow in there, because remember, back in the olden days, like we talked about in our lesson, there was no electricity, so they had to use candles and fires in the fireplace to warm the building. Now I want you guys to decide what color you guys want your flags to be. I'm kind of thinking that I want my flag to be a royal blue. I'm going to add this blue right here, and I'm going to color my flags in a blue color. You guys can choose. What's your favorite color? All right, I've got some colors for my greens for my trees. I'm going to start with a green that kind of looks like a grass green, and I'm going to go ahead and do what I did with the building. I'm going to outline first. You could do this with your crayons as well. Good, I'm going to do that over here as well. All right, and I'm going to do a little bit of a lighter color inside of there. Just a little bit of a different shade. And you guys don't have to change what color you're using, especially if you have crayons and you've only got one green. You guys can use whatever green colors that you have. But if you have a different kind of pack of crayons, or you've got multiple colors, sometimes it's fun to do a little bit of different colors inside and a little bit of darker on the outer edges, because it gives you a little bit more realism. That means it looks a little bit more real when you're able to change the color a little bit. All right, now what I want to do is I want to go ahead and add my bushes down at the bottom here. So I'm going to be very careful when I get near the edge so I don't go off the edge and onto my table. And I think I'm going to make the grass in the front a little bit of a lighter shade of green. So if you have a green that looks like a yellow, that would be a great one to choose. I have one that looks a little bit like this. So let's see how that turns out. I think that's a really nice grass color. Again, I'm going to outline first. I'm going to get it away from the edge of my paper because I don't want to have to worry about going off my paper and getting it on a table. And then I'm going to pull nice long strokes. All right. I'm going to use the same brown that I did my door with, and I'm going to do this little dirt path. Because they really didn't pave roads back in those olden days. They didn't even have cars yet. They were all still riding on horses, and they had carriages that the horses pulled, and they could get around like that as well. But no cars, no airplanes. When people lived in castles, those things were not invented yet. All right, last we're going to go ahead and we're going to work on these mountains here. And I'm going to look for a very light purple for my mountains. I know it seems weird to put purple on mountains, but it's actually a really good color for mountains. Blue would also be a good color for mountains, especially when they're far away in the distance. Now, if you guys want to, you can leave the sky alone. You could just leave it white, or you can color it in. You can also even use more than one color to color it in. Maybe it's sunrise and there's a couple colors in the sky, or maybe it's sunset. I'm going to show you guys how to do different colors in your background. And you know what we're going to do? We're going to use crayons for it, because sometimes I like to use crayons for my sky, even when I use markers for the rest of my work. Let's not forget our tree trunks too. Tree trunk number 1, tree trunk number 2. Now with my sky, I think I'm going to choose a blue and a purple. So with my blue and my purple, I'm going to turn my paper sideways. Let me show you. so I can go back and forth up and down this way. Okay, and let me show you how that works. I'm going to start with my blue since I have purple mountains, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to softly color. I don't want to push too hard because I want it to look nice and soft. I'm going to be careful not to go inside of my building. I'm not going to try to get my crayon on my roof. I'm just going to go really soft, nice and straight, up and down. Try and get in all those little spaces. And I'm only going to go halfway. I'm going to go to right about there because I want that part to be purple. So I'm going to kind of think about that while I'm going in between all these spaces right here. Just very carefully. Let's get in between these places. And you can see that your hand kind of likes the up and down motion way better than going side to side. That's why I like to turn my paper to do my skies. This also works for water. If you had to do water, you would want your water to go side to side because that's kind of how it looks in the ocean. So think about how high up are you going. Right about to there. Be very careful next to the items on your paper, and then you can free flow right all the way to the edge. Alright, now lastly I want to go ahead and I want to take my purple, okay, my purple crayon now, and I'm going to do this part up at the top, okay? And you're just going to overlap just the tiniest bit. Overlapping means I'm going to go right over that blue just a little bit to blend it into the purple. I'm not pushing hard, I'm pushing really lightly to make it kind of have a watercolor effect. It kind of looks like watercolors, doesn't it? It looks nice and soft. And it looks a lot different than our building. It looks different than the castle because the castle looks bright because of the marker. And again, if you didn't get to use markers today, try not to worry about it. Crayons are just as much fun and look just as nice. Alright, one more section to fill in and we are all done for the day. Alright. Well, I hope you guys had a lot of fun today. I hope you guys learned some new techniques for coloring. I hope you guys learned a little bit about architecture and shapes. And I hope you guys will join me for the next time. And I will see you guys next time. Bye.